For over 3 years here at One Big Happy Life, I've been introducing myself as Tasha. Well, recently, a few days ago, I announced on Instagram that I've made the decision to change my legal first name to Scarlett. And I'm so excited to share that news with you here and to talk a little bit more about how that decision came about, the story behind it, and just to share a little bit more background and answer a couple of the questions that came up over on Instagram. Hi, I'm Scarlett Cochran. I'm a lawyer and a wealth expert, and this is One Big Happy Life, where we help you find balance, build wealth, and live happy. Everything that you need to create the life that you want. Now, our tagline is all about helping you create the life that you want. And we believe that every person's vision of what their best life looks like is unique, just like every person is unique. And so we try to live those principles in everything that we do. And so I'm really excited to share this story of my name change here because I know that I'm not the only one that was born with a name that never felt quite like it fit. Like whenever I would answer to my name, whenever I would say my name growing up, it never quite felt right to me. It never settled on me. But it never occurred to me that I would be anything other than Tasha, that would ever not be my name. As I got older and learned more about the legal system, the way names actually work, I realized that I could change my name, but I never did find a name that I thought fit me until a few weeks ago when I did. It was actually when Reeves and I went to that mother-son getaway at a resort in Pennsylvania called Nemacolin. We were having dinner at Lautrec restaurant. They have this multi-course menu. So we were sitting there having dinner. It was like a 3-hour dinner. I think we were about 2 hours in. And Reeves had basically checked out. We were talking at first, but then he's like, all right, 2 hours in, where's my Kindle? Let me just watch a show. So he was watching a show and I was largely texting back and forth with Joseph and Alexis. Alexis was with her boyfriend in Orlando at Universal Studios, and Joseph was at home because he had a training to do for work, so he couldn't come with us. And so it was the evening, he was hanging out at home. He had already started to tidy and declutter because we had decided that, well, at least we were really thinking that we were going to be selling our house. So he was working on that. So I'm just texting with them. And all of a sudden, this name just kind of floats into my ear, Scarlett. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the name. And it was the first time I had ever considered that name for myself, but it was that moment that I heard it, I was like, wow, that's it. That's me. I love it. It just settled on me and it felt so good. So I immediately texted Joseph and Alexis, and you can see the records of those text messages over on Instagram where I announced my name change because I shared screenshots of those. And Joseph knew that I didn't love my name. So he wasn't surprised at all. He's like, oh yeah, sounds great. I love it. Alexis also knew that I didn't love my name. So it wasn't a shock to either one of them. It didn't catch them off guard. They weren't like, what? You want to change your name? How come? They already knew. They also knew that I had never found a name that I loved. So the minute I found a name that I loved, they were both just all in. They didn't even ask any questions. They didn't ask, oh, where'd you get that from? What made you think that? Go look at the text messages. They're like, yep, sounds perfect. Let's do it. And, I just want to that was a really big thing for me because as much as I felt like that I wanted to change my name and I felt like my birth name didn't really suit me, it's a scary thing to do something that people don't usually do. Changing your first name is not a common thing. It's not something that people talk about. It's not a normal part of, Western culture. And so it was really great that the people that were closest to me immediately supported me, didn't ask me any questions, were just incredibly comfortable with it. Now, Alexis, of course, it wasn't surprising that she was comfortable with it because Alexis has actually changed her name multiple times over the course of her childhood. In second grade, when she started at her school, there was another Alexis who had the exact same last name as her. So it was the exact same name. And her teacher turned to her and said, well, what do you want to be called? Like maybe Lexi, because she was looking to shorten her name. And Alexis looked right at her teacher and said, Evangeline. Now, that is not one of Alexis's given names. It's just a name that we both think we would talk about, and we would both say that we thought that that was a beautiful name. So the teacher looks at me like, what? And like waiting to see if I'm okay with it. And I'm like, sure. So for that year, Alexis was Evangeline in second grade. Then in third grade, the other Alexis left. So Alexis made the decision to go back to Alexis for third grade. And then when we moved to Texas, she tried on Lily for a year. And so every time we moved to a new school, I asked her, I'm like, what name would you like to be called this year? And eventually she settled on Alexis as the name that felt right for her. So for Alexis, my daughter, who has also been Evangeline and Lily, this idea of trying on names and a name being the right fit for you was something that she was completely used to. So I'm not surprised at all that she was incredibly supportive of me. And Joseph is always and has always been an incredibly supportive partner. So I had nothing but support. I also messaged a couple of my close friends, and they were also very supportive. And then, but despite all of that, the nerves crept in and the doubt started to creep in. Like, who am I to change my name? Like, who does that? No one does that. Like, why do I feel so different? Why can't I just be like everyone else? Is that name the right name? Am I going to hate that name? What are people going to think about the fact that I changed my name? How will changing my name affect my business? I've built a whole legal career and reputation around the name Tasha Cochran. I've built a whole business around the name Tasha Cochran. In fact, in these YouTube videos, over, I think, 18 million views at this point, people have gotten to know me as Tasha. I am under contract with Penguin Random House to publish a book, and they signed decided to do a book deal with Tasha Cochran. How is the publisher going to feel about the fact that I've decided to change my whole name, well, really just the first part of it, when we're supposed to be publishing a book, right? How is this going to impact the book? I had all of those doubts coming into my mind. And of course, what will my parents think? And then other thoughts after that. Like, I spent weeks, even though it felt so certain in the moment, and I knew that it was what I wanted to do, I still felt so scared and nervous. And I say all of this because I know that change can feel scary, right? When we have these big ideas, this vision for what our best life looks like, and it doesn't look like what everyone else around us is doing. It doesn't feel normal. It can be so easy to let the fear and the doubt and the questions and wondering what other people will think keep us stuck in a small box. It can be so easy to just play the role that society, other people, our circles, well-meaning friends, well-meaning family, frenemies, people who don't like us and actually don't want to see us succeed. It can be so easy to let those voices crowd out our own voice. And suddenly we're not living the life that we want to live. We're living the life that other people are telling us that we should be living. And, other things that came up for me, because I would think about this name Scarlett, and I'm like, why is that the name that called to me? And I actually had a conversation with Alexis and Joseph, and this came up in the Instagram comments. Red is not my favorite color. I don't dislike it, but it's certainly not my go-to color. And so the fact that I love the name Scarlett, with red not being my favorite color, like, that's a conversation that Joseph and I had, and Alexis too. And we all just kind of shrugged, and we recognized that it's possible to not like a color, but like a word, right? It's possible to not like the color red, but like the word red and call yourself red. So, that might be a question that came up. And then also another question that came up for me is I'm thinking of, okay, well, who are the other Scarletts that I know of? And I'm like, oh, there's the Scarlett from Gone with the Wind, which I've never seen Gone with the Wind, but in my mind, the impression that I have of it is that it definitely had some issues with racism. I've never seen it, but that's the impression that I have of it. And so I'm like, am I naming myself after someone who's racist? I don't know. And she's a fictional character. Is that something that I even really need to be thinking about? And as a Black woman, is that name okay for me? What are people going to think? I don't know any other Black women with that name. And what are people going to think about the fact that That's the name that I have chosen for myself. And those are all questions that I asked myself and that I had to work through and make sure that I was comfortable with the answers to those questions. And one of the first things that I had to get comfortable with and really settle into and really own deep in myself is that other people's opinions cannot be the guiding factor for my life, especially not people that I don't know, people that I cannot trust with my dreams, with my hopes, with my heart, with my personhood. Those people are not going to be the people that I turn to for guidance on what is the best decision for me and my life. And so, I'm getting like a little bit emotional here because it's a big deal. I normally with these videos, I'll outline, I'll think through everything that I want to say, but I'm kind of going really off the cuff right now. And so I'm going to tell one more story. It's like two stories really, but 2 or 3 months ago, and say 2 or 3 months ago, we had some neighbors over and we were talking and it came up, it was a couple, like they're neighbors, they're a couple. And the husband was we were talking about preferred gender pronouns. And the husband was saying that people are too sensitive about the use of proper pronouns. And I gave him pushback on that. I'm like, why? What difference does it make to you, what pronouns you use? It makes no difference to you. It doesn't affect you at all. You just have to remember which pronouns a person prefers, but it makes a huge difference to them. And why should we feel entitled to call someone something other than what they choose to be named? And we had this disagreement, and I swear to you, it had like the impact that it would have on me. It felt like something that it was just the principle of the thing and the way that I felt we should treat other people and the way that I felt that we should live. And I never expected it to be something that would matter to me personally. And it's so funny. I started to tell, so when I decided to change, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I worked through all of the mindset stuff. And so the first people that I really reached out to, aside from my close friends, my lawyers and my agent and my publisher, just to make sure that I wasn't doing anything that was going to really impact our book deal. And they're like, okay, yep, everything's fine. Just got to legally change your name. So then I started telling people that business relationships. So just changing my name in conversations. And I remember the first time that someone responded and called me Scarlett, I just felt so seen, and I didn't expect to get emotional about it, but I did. And so it just made me realize, on a much, much smaller scale, what it must be like to finally have people call you the pronouns that you see yourself as. So just a personal insight that I had that I never fully understood, though I always fully support it. I never fully understood until I was in that space. And so today I came to my office. This is sitting in my office, and Reeves had made this picture where he wrote our names, and he wrote my name right there. And it was just such a special moment. It's a wonderful thing to be accepted just as you are. And so, my final message, gosh, I really, wow, did not expect to get this emotional, but it's just to encourage you to stay true to your vision for your life, because you only get one, and the fear in the moment, it's going to feel scary, but the right people will support you. And at the end of the day, right, you have to live with those choices, right? It is your life. You get to make those decisions. So I'm so excited to share this new name with you. And that's how I'm going to be introducing myself here on the channel from now on. And so I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being a part of the One Big Happy Life family, being on this journey, being part of this movement to live a life that feels good to you, and to taking control of your finances and using your money to support your vision of your best life. All right, I'll see you in the next video. JK, I'm back. I realized that there was one thing that I wanted to touch on that I didn't go deep enough into. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes and just talk about that. And so that is on Instagram, someone commented that she loved hearing me say my name, Tasha, because for her, that was a very Black sounding name. And she loved that there was that representation of a Black sounding name in a successful YouTube channel, a successful business. And I get that, because representation matters. But I also want to offer that a name is not what makes someone Black. And as Black people, we need to celebrate each other and lift each other up and make sure that we all have the options that we're called to have. It's a beautiful thing that we can reach for our dreams. We can live the lives that we want to live while being Black. And there's no one way to be Black. A name doesn't make someone Black. Who they love doesn't make someone Black. How they speak doesn't make someone Black. My name doesn't affect whether or not I am a Black woman. I will always be a proud Black woman, okay? But what I won't do is do things because I'm trying to show that Blackness or prove that Blackness. I don't need to prove something that I just am. I believe that there is space within the diaspora of Blackness for us to show up as we are and respect each other's differences without having to call each other's Blackness into question. And, honestly, I wish I didn't have to have this conversation, but it needs to be said. Okay, so let's look at the things that unite us, the ways that we can show up and support each other, and not for the ways that we can tear each other down. And I think that if we can all focus on ways that we can uplift each other, and by all of us, I mean everyone, every single person, looking for ways where we can uplift each other, support each other, as we are all on our own individual quests to live our best lives and create lives that we absolutely love, that the world will be a better place for it, and we will all live happier, more fulfilling lives as a result of it. All right, that's it this time, I promise, and no more tears. I will see you in the next video. Bye.